What's crackin', female sheep and root vegetables? It's Brad here today. I'm going to be talking about the Auto-Smelter. Right here beside me you see the basic design. It's you got an input which will fill this slot, got the fuel chest which will fill this slot, and then this hopper will pull things out once they're done. This is a great design. It's one wide and tileable and 2x4. But the one problem is if you're not inputting enough to use up the whole block of fuel, like this one will do 20 items, it'll just go to waste. Like this guy will get smelted and then the rest will just be wasted. So that's the problem I've set out to solve today, and this is what I've come up with. I call it the fuel conserving auto-smelter. It still has the basic components. You got the input, the fuel, and the output. And what I've done is use this etho clock to lock this hopper until I have enough items in here to use up one piece of fuel. I've got kelp in here, so I've got it programmed to accept 20 items. And we'll just demonstrate that. Here's 19 items, hasn't started. And then one more, and there it goes. So what it's doing is it's measuring this chest, and then because this comparator is in subtract mode, the signal coming from just one item, that's a signal of 1, will subtract from the signal we get from here. So once this chest is putting out a signal of 2, it starts going. And that's why I've got here, just to get a signal of 2 from 20 items. And so what it's doing, this torch keeps the etho clock from going until the signal of 2 turns off the torch, and then the etho clock can go. You see that I have 20 items in here, so that it's timed out to only take 20 items from this chest into the furnace. And that was great. I had it solved, and then I realized that if you have a whole bunch of items up in here, once it gets 20, it'll start pulling out those 20, but this one will still be putting items in, and it'll just kind of freak out. So I added this line here, which I'm calling overflow protection. It just locks your input until this etho clock has run its course, and then it can start again. So let's talk about how it's made. It's a pretty small footprint, 6x5, tall by 4. All you need is a furnace, of course, 4 hoppers, at least 2 chests, 12 blocks, 3 torches, 4 comparators, 3 bits of dust, 3 sticky pistons, 2 blocks of redstone, and 2 repeaters. So let's show how it's made. We'll have our basic stuff. We'll have an output chest, hopper for the output, a furnace, hopper for fuel, and then our input, and then the chest that we'll be measuring, and the input hopper that will get locked for overflow protection. Now we use some of these things. A little 2x2 platform here, and a comparator coming out of the chest. Another comparator here, a bit of dust, and a repeater. This comparator is in subtract mode. You just right click it, put a chest here, put a single item in it, and that's our detection, what do you want to call it, circuit. And then we'll put a block here with another bit of dust on it, and a torch. That torch there, and now we need an etho clock. So put a block of redstone behind our input hopper, and if I can squeeze in there, no, come on. Oh my goodness. There we go. Piston there, piston coming out of that torch. And then we'll need hoppers underneath it for our timing. These hoppers need to be pointed into each other, like that. And then you'll put 20 items in if you're using kelp. I'll talk about the different fuel sources later. Next, we'll need some comparators coming out of each of these hoppers. Like so. And then blocks outside of each of them. This one gets a bit of dust. And we need torchy coming out of that block, like that. And another, that doesn't have to be a solid block. Yeah, anytime I use a slab, it doesn't have to be a slab. It could be a solid block, but when I use a stone block, it has to be a solid block. Like that. And then we'll put another torch on you, repeater, and then a solid block for, a block of redstone for our overflow protection system. Come on. With a piston right back. Come on. Piston right behind it. And a block underneath the piston. Alright, I hope that made sense, but that's the whole thing done. Now, depending on what fuel source you're using, you'll need to add items just to get the signal strength right. If you're using charcoal, you'll need 8 items in the etho clock, and then however many that is, 116 items in this chest down here. If you could use a sword, because that counts as a stack instead of like 64 blocks. Blaze rods do 12, so 12 in the hopper, and then 112 items. Kelp is 104 with 20 in the etho clock. Block of coal does 80, so that's 80 in the etho with 44 items in your chest. Lava does 100, so 100 in the etho with 24 in your chest. One thing to note is that if you are wanting to smelt non-stackable items like swords, you'll have to like load this one up with the same amount of with like one less sword than what you want to smelt. So it's a little bit different. If you wanted to smelt swords with lava buckets or coal, you're out of luck, because there's no way to measure out how many. Do I have 80 swords or 100 swords? So just stick to the other fuel sources for that. So that is my basic design, and what good would any redstone circuit be if you couldn't make it one wide and tileable? I probably spent way too many hours coming up with this. I probably came up with 5 different working designs before I made this nice compact one. It still has all of the same components that the other one has. Got fuel, output, input, got our measurement circuit, we got our etho clock. This is something I had to invent to make an etho clock one wide and tileable, which I'm pretty proud of. It uses some kind of like bud powering higgly magics. And then I had to come up with this hopper dropper pair to get this signal from the measurement down around here. Let's look at what we need to make this. 1 furnace, 11 hoppers, at least 1 chest, 9 solid blocks, 2 bits of dust, 2 redstone blocks, 4 sticky pistons, 1 dropper, 2 torches, 6 comparators, 4 repeaters, 4 observers, and then 8 blocks that don't have to be solid, they don't have to be slabs, just whatever you want. And yeah, let's make it happen. I got my little cheat sheet here. So furnace goes there. Hoppers. Fuel chest. Output chest. Hopper into him. And then we'll have a chain of hoppers coming back this way. Chest on top of him. and that's what we'll be measuring, and this hopper will be locked for overflow protection. Next I'm going to make the etho clock. Sticky pistons there and there. And then, is that right? No, that's not right. Sticky pistons going there and there. Redstone block. And then we'll have our hoppers pointed into each other. Oops. Like that. And now we'll need some observers for this bud-powered reset circuit, whatever you want to call it. And comparator on top of him. And then we'll need some solid blocks there and there. And a piston under him, right there. Comparator on top of here. It's pretty cool that it takes signal from the furnace to make the etho clock work. It's a pretty clever way of doing that. Next we'll do our input detection. We need a solid block there and a solid block there. The rest can be slabs or blocks, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I need 2 comparators like that. This one has to be a comparator because there's a piston above it. If it was dust, it would power the piston when you don't want it to. 2 bits of dust right there. And then we'll do our hopper dropper pair. So when you get a signal of 2 coming out of the chest, it'll send this item into the hopper and turn off this comparator, allowing the etho clock to run its cycle. Need a hopper to get that item back into the dropper, and that's our input detection circuit. Last thing we need to build is our overflow protection. So comparator coming out of there, and then 3 repeaters. If you're in redstone savvy, you probably are thinking, hey, couldn't you have a solid block and save a repeater? But no, if you had a solid block right here, it would actually activate this dropper when you don't want to, and it actually cause that infinite loop, and you don't want that. So now we're going to make a torch tower coming up just to get the signal around. So torch on that, and a repeater coming out of that top block, and then 2 observers pointed into that repeater, and then last but not least, sticky piston and a redstone block. And so that's all that. Why don't I show you this running? Oops. So put a bunch in there, fill these up, whatever. And then you can see that one started, and they're all working independently of each other. And yeah, that's pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like and subscribe if you like what you saw, and I will be back in the future with more. Bye bye.